And welcome to the Rock Pile this evening. It's good to be back here after a couple weeks off. I just returned this past week from Minnesota, so it's good to be back here behind the mic, and it's good to continue to talk to another Rome legend. I'll bring Coach Tony Mariano on here in just a moment. We were talking a little bit before we came on live. Want to make sure I thank Tony Levidotti tonight for helping sponsor tonight's show, and as I always thank the Rome Sports Hall of Fame for helping me produce all these shows with former Rome Sports Hall of Famers. So I'm excited to talk to Tony here in just a moment. Make sure to follow the show on YouTube. Just hit subscribe, catch all the Rock Pile shows. You can see the playbacks, and you can also catch the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch, any past interviews. I do post them up as well from the Saturday morning show. This Saturday, special guest. If you like Coney Island, you follow the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, the voice of Coney Island, George Shea, is going to join me Saturday morning at 10:30. So without further ado, let's bring him back from the green room to on screen. We'll see if we can get Coach Tony on with me. There he is. How are you?
Hey, great, Rock. Great. Great to be on the show. Let me tell you, I've been looking forward to it.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. It's been so nice, as we were just saying, just to hear some of the stories from all the coaches. And, Kelly Hoke was on as well. Kelly was great. But just to see the memories of everybody. And I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of stories tonight too, but they've all been fantastic.
Yeah. I've listened to several of the podcasts that you've had with some of the greats, Mike Davis and Stan Evans and Bill Fleet. And they've been great. Just listening to the stories and the memories that they have, phenomenal. It's great to have people in Rome and in the surrounding areas to hear those stories, especially the younger guys and gals that are out there, because they may not have known a lot of those people, certainly growing up, but it's great to hear those stories.
So Tony, when you came on, we were talking a little bit about, you mentioned Franklin Field, and I want you to just talk a little bit about growing up in Rome, because you grew up, I believe, right across the street from Franklin Field. So talk about how special it was to grow up here in Rome.
Well, I'll tell you this. When I got inducted into the Rome Sports Hall of Fame, the one comment I made was the best decision my mother and father made was to buy a house across the street from Franklin Field. And it was, I think if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking with you. There were so many sport activities over in Franklin Field. I would go over there pretty much every day, whether it was in the summer, playing basketball, baseball, screen ball, tennis. And then, certainly in the wintertime, I'd put my skates on in my mother's and father's kitchen, and I'd walk across the street and go play in the hockey boxes over there. And my mother would call the clubhouse, and they'd make an announcement for me to go home and have lunch or have dinner. And I'd go right back over there. And, I spent all my time over there. And when I thought about Rome and the athletes that we've had in Rome, a lot of them grew up around playgrounds. And I think Rome, was a special place because of that. They had those opportunities for young kids to, develop skills and meet others. And back then, we didn't have any adults there helping us form games. We did it all by ourselves. And it was really a special time, one that, certainly I really believe that really propelled me into what I've been doing for 44 years. So Rome was terrific, and being that close to Franklin Field and being able to do that on a daily basis, was phenomenal.
My mom and dad always laugh because it's a lot different now with the younger generation. I was telling you, my son's 9 years old. When I was that age, I was riding my bike to Franklin Field to get there by 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't leave Franklin Field till probably 4 or 5 o'clock. I would spend the entire day there. My mom and dad would give me $1, $2 to get a small slush puppy at that time, which was a quarter. and then I'd get a large at the end of the day, which was 75 cents. So that was my dollar. But we would spend the day playing baseball in the morning. We would, basketball, whatever it was, we always had a ball in our hand. And now, like, I look at my son, and the generation is so much different. They have no idea what it was like years ago to be out throwing a ball around, swinging a bat, throwing a football around. So much different.
Yeah, it is, and it's a shame that it's like that. We can blame the internet and computers and all of that because of that reason. But you're right. I mean, I remember. My father had a ping pong table in our basement, but I learned to play ping pong over at Franklin Field. We'd go over there and play all the time. And then Friday nights, my mother would make a bag of popcorn for me, give me a dime, and we'd go over and I'd get a soda, and they'd have movies outside that we'd sit and watch, till 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then come back home. So, yeah, it's a shame that the kids today don't do as many activities outdoors on their own like we used to. I don't know if that'll ever change. I hope it does, because I think that's where a lot of the great athletes from Rome really got their start is by, doing those things basically on their own, and really finding out a lot about themselves and about what they could do and with a particular sport. So hopefully that'll change, Rock, but I don't know if it will.
No, my son is always on these tablets and playing Fortnite and all these video games. And I was always outside with a basketball in the wintertime. Mike 80's son, Brian, and I would go out and shovel parts of the driveway, put gloves on, shoot. It's so much different now. I don't know if it'll ever change, but I hope you're right. I hope it does change. But talk to us a little bit about, because you were a 3-sport athlete as well: soccer, hockey, baseball. I know you played for some legendary coaches. Can you talk to us about some of the high school coaches that impacted you a little bit?
Yeah. Rome had some of the best coaches in all sports, not just the ones that I played in, but, the football coaches that they had there, Don Bruce and Myslinski. Those guys were great coaches. I mean, unbelievable coaches, and could have coached at the college level. But for me, I think, it started playing JV baseball for Coach. Was phenomenal. Buddy was a great coach. He was a disciplinarian. He taught you a hell of a lot more than baseball. Mm-hmm. And I learned a great deal from him. And, we've been great friends ever since that year. And, here's another one that could have been a great college basketball coach, a great college baseball coach. But that started. And then, as I advanced into soccer, and I never played soccer until 9th grade. Wow. There wasn't any youth soccer programs in the city. And, we'd go across the street in Franklin Field and kick a ball around once in a while, but that was about it. And then I ended up playing varsity soccer as a freshman and played 4 years under Bob Bean, who was, I think Bob was a Springfield guy. So many guys from Rome went to Springfield, and they got great training at Springfield. And, we had some good players, some good teams. Perry Neasy was on that team, who's been a very successful soccer coach. He's now at Hamilton. And then in hockey, I had Don Gary. Here's a guy that played on the 52 Olympic team. Right. My God, you can't get much better coaching than that. And then Don Simons, who came in after him, who played at St. Lawrence as well. And then, baseball, after having Buddy, then transferring up to the varsity level with Joe Schwark, had a good experience there. And then, we had great American Legion teams back then with a couple different coaches. And I really think that Rome at that point in time had some of the best coaches in the state. And I think a lot of the guys that went before me and during my time became much better athletes than they would have if we didn't have that great coaching that we had in Rome. And I owe a lot to all of those guys that I had, because I certainly starting soccer as a freshman in high school, and now I go up to St. Lawrence, and now I'm competing against guys that have played in all these youth programs, and I'm going, okay, I gotta work a hell of a lot harder. And I had really good success with soccer up there, and the same thing happened with hockey when I went to St. Lawrence. 3/4 of the guys were Canadians, and played junior hockey and probably played 60, 70 games, and we played 20 in high school, and that was a big challenge. But the coaching that I got in Rome, I think, really made the difference, and I really, really appreciated it.
I always give him a shout out on here, and he always says, he brags because I have two guys that help me out on Saturday mornings. Coach Nick Medicis, who's the RFA boys basketball coach, and Pete Pagliaro, who's actually from Secoit. And I remember when he came down with me and I started talking and bringing on all these coaches on the radio show, and he said, boy, he goes, I didn't realize that there's that many coaches that have had such an impact on, the community, and who's went on to coach college and, professional sports. And I was fortunate enough, Tony, to play for a lot of those guys that you mentioned, the Tom Hoax, the Coach Mises, the Coach Bruces, the Coach Ryans. Baseball, I played for Coach Fidecosti. I played for Buddy Evans in baseball as well. But, we were so blessed as a kid. Now when I look back on it and I say, boy, how lucky I was to have played for all those coaches that not only taught you about the game, but even the life lessons now in my full-time job. It's just amazing how blessed we really were.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've thought about that a lot, Rock, and they have been, and Rome has been blessed really with great coaches, great people, and they taught you more than the sport, and that's I think the real important thing that I learned from all of those coaches that we had. They really, they knew the sport, they could teach it, they were patient, they really worked with you, and but they taught you life lessons as well, which those carry on for the rest of your life.
Well, I always laugh too, because I always say some of the old school coaches, and I say old school, I always laugh. My dad was old school. I helped him out for a little bit coaching football, but I always want to go back and say, could some of those guys have still coached in today's day and age with high school, knowing that high school now sports are so much different than what they were years ago? And a lot of them say they couldn't because the disciplinary thing. I was always a guy that if a coach got in my face, I didn't care. I grew up with a coach, so I was used to some of that. Right. Do you think a lot of those guys could have coached today?
I think a lot of them could if the parents weren't involved. Yeah, I think the parents have really, unfortunately, have created an environment where the kids that these guys would be coaching are making it more and more difficult. And you're absolutely right. I would never talk back to a coach. I would never say anything to a coach. That's the furthest thing from my mind. But it's a whole different population out there. And the fortunate thing for me being at Norwich is, because it's a disciplined environment, I don't see as much of that as you would in the high school level. But obviously these kids are all coming from high school. But, there's still those helicopter parents that, want to know why their kid isn't playing as much as somebody else, and those kinds of things. But in terms of being able to teach the game to these kids, I think those coaches could. Whether they'd want to put up with that
Right.
That's a different story. It's just a different world when it comes to the high school level, certainly.
So Tony, I want to spend you graduated from St. Lawrence, but I want to spend the bulk of the rest of the show and talk about 44 years you spent at Norwood University. How did you arrive at Norwood?
I knew you were going to ask me that, Rock. So the story is, I was standing in line at graduation at St. Lawrence, and the athletic director at the time, Bob Sheldon, came up to me and said, "Tony, what are you doing next year?" And I had accepted a graduate assistantship at Brockport, and I was going to be working in a biology lab, which I wasn't real excited about. I really wanted to try to coach, but I figured once I got there, maybe I could volunteer or whatever. And Bob Sheldon said, "Listen, Norwich has got a graduate program, and they're looking for guys to go up and to get their masters and also help coach." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And Bob knew the athletic director at the time, Joe Sable, and Joe was a little All-American at Penn State football player, and so I ended up going up there. I drove up with a good friend of mine, Gary Pulio, and we drove up, and I met with the head of the PE department, a guy by the name of Wally Baines, and this was a great opportunity. It was a free education, and I got a chance to coach. So I changed my mind, and I ended up at Norwich. And then I was there for the year, got my master's, and I helped coach soccer, and I helped coach hockey, and then left and came back, and I ended up in Rochester working at Rush Henrietta High School for a couple of years. And I was looking to get a full-time job out at Rush Henrietta, but at the time they didn't have any full-time jobs. I was substitute teaching. I was coaching. I was coaching hockey and baseball, JV baseball out there, and then the job opportunities weren't going to open up, and I was actually managing a hockey rink out there while I was there. And then I came back to Rome, and Fleeter gave me a job working with the rec department. And so I was working with him in the office, and then I was working over at Kennedy Arena. And then the job opened up at Norwich as the head soccer coach and assistant hockey coach. And so they obviously knew me from, what I had done when I was there as a graduate student. And, I don't know who they called in terms of recommendations or whatever, but they offered me the job, and so I ended up there in 1978, and I was the head soccer coach. I was the assistant hockey coach, and eventually I ran the old hockey rink there, Old Taylor Arena, which we tore down and built a beautiful Kreitzberg Arena. But that's really how I really got to Norwich. If Bob Sheldon didn't come up and say anything to me, I would have been out at Brockport, and who knows where I would have ended up, and it's just amazing how that all happened. But I'm glad he did. It was a great thing to happen for me, and for him to be able to provide that information to me. And so I ended up showing up at the door at Norwich for grad school, and then back a couple of years later as a full-time coach.
And keep your coaching hat on for a minute, because I know it's hard to recruit a military school, right? It takes a special athlete, student athlete. What's the recruiting pitch? Because you were a coach, so you had to go through the recruiting. How do you sell Norwood University to a student athlete?
Well, back when I started, it was all core, and there weren't any females there, so that was even tougher, right? Although we had Vermont College up 10 miles up the road in Montpelier, that was all female. So you could entice some kids for that reason, but a lot of the kids that we recruited were interested in the military. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then there were a lot of kids that really needed structure and discipline. and they knew it. Their family knew it. And then there were kids that wanted to be an engineer, as an example. And they knew in order for them to be successful in that major, they needed to have a lot of structure. So, I would go out and sell not only the programs that we had, soccer and then hockey, but we'd sell the school on both academics, of both the disciplined environment. Norwich, especially the core, it's as difficult as you want to make it. And if you want to make it difficult, it will be difficult. If you do the things that they ask you to do, you keep your nose clean, you don't do anything stupid, you can get by without any problems. And being an athlete, the upperclassmen always looked after you. I always used to assign an upperclassman to a freshman and say, you're responsible for this kid. And if anything happens to him, I'm coming back at you, and make sure you take care of it. And they did. It was great that way. And but it wasn't easy. And, we lost a lot of good athletes because they just didn't want that environment. And that was unfortunate. But, the kids that I had, and I don't know how many, I probably had 6 or 7 All-Americans. I had the first All-American soccer player, a kid by the name of Guido Vodelli from Wellesley, Mass. That was a phenomenal soccer player for me. And then, a bunch of guys in hockey, Frank Simonetti, that went on and played for the Bruins, was a great soccer player and hockey player. But they all wanted that environment because they wanted an engineering degree, or they wanted, a career in the military. And so we were able to entice them to be able to come. But it was hard. It was really hard, Brock. You have conversations with these kids, and, they initially think that, yeah, that's what they want. And then they come up and visit and they see what it's like. And then all of a sudden they change their mind. And, you spend a lot of time with some kids, and, they decide not to come. And that was unfortunate. But, we were able to attract some really good athletes and had some good teams. And, but it was hard work. And, I always, with these young football assistant coaches that we have, I always tell them, I said, if you can recruit at Norwich, you can go to any school and recruit. Mm-hmm. And so when you look to get another job after Norwich, as maybe a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, people are going to look at you because you were able to bring in quality athletes at Norwich, just because of the difficulty it is in recruiting. And so a lot of our guys have gone on to bigger and better jobs in athletics, I think, because of that reason.
I know when I played at Fordham, we're Division I AA, and I knew the routine, the structure. We were 6:30 in the morning, study hall. You're in film sessions. You're in individual meetings. You're in team meetings. You got to go to class, and you got study halls. How tough is the schedule for an athlete in the military? I'm sure it's got to be from the morning until night, everything routine. How tough is that?
It's not easy. Some of our kids have ROTC scholarships, so they have requirements with whatever branch they're in: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. And then the kids in the Corps that may not be going for an ROTC scholarship still have those requirements. So they usually get up at 5:30 in the morning. They have PT from 5:30 to 6:45. And then they go back to their room, shower, change, get into their uniform, and then they go down to the mess hall, have breakfast, and then classes start at 8 o'clock. And, depending upon their class schedule, they're in classes from 8 until, could be 4. Some of our classes now run way later in the late afternoon and early evening. And then we try to have practices start 4 or 4:30. And then, after that, our kids, we do have study hall for a lot of our teams. And then, they got to get their homework done after that. The freshmen have study hall in their dorms within their companies after like at 7 o'clock or 7:30 at night until 10, and then they have lights off, and then they just repeat it again the next day and the next day and the next day. So it's a very rigorous lifestyle. And as you move up in class, so from freshman to sophomore, junior, and senior, it gets easier, obviously, but the regimentation is still there. And these kids, really do a lot in a day. And the other thing that amazes me, Rock, is the number of classes and credits that these kids are taking. When I was at St. Lawrence, I think I was taking 4 courses a semester for most of the 4 years that I was there. These kids, they're taking up to 20 credits, some even more. And and in some of these majors, especially engineering, cybersecurity, biology, it's amazing that they're able to do all of that with the core, all of that with academics, and then be an athlete. It's just phenomenal. And then, the other part that I didn't throw in is, we've got strength and conditioning coach where they have to go and partake in, their strength and conditioning program throughout the season, preseason, during the season, and after the season. So it's really a rigid and regimented lifestyle for them. And it's amazing to see these kids and how they can function and be successful in doing all that.
And you also hear, the player schedule is tough too. But sometimes when you watch, like when I watch a Navy game or an Army game or an Air Force on TV, you always hear the broadcasters will say, even for the coaches, to coach at an academy school is so much different than coaching at a non-academy school. Talk to us about that if you can.
Well, yeah, you're right, because there's so many conflicts that happen, and when I was coaching, there were times that I certainly didn't have all the kids at practice because they either had an ROTC commitment or they had a lab, and so you're trying to prepare for a game, and you may not have everybody there, and then there are times when most of those times, when a kid might not be there. But then there's times when, an ROTC commander will say, nope, you have to show up for this event if you want to maintain your scholarship. So the kid has to go because the government's paying for him or her to come to school at Norwich. So there's all of those things that they have to put up with. And then, when we travel, we would put in what we call detached service lists, which are the players that are traveling. And, some of the professors are really tough on kids and might not allow them to travel because, they have an exam that day, or, their grade is a little bit lower and they're afraid that they're not going to pass. Those kinds of things. So, there's always something that's happening, and the coaches, sometimes they're aware, sometimes they're not aware, and it is frustrating for them to do it. And I hats off to the coaches that I've had work for me. They've really been able to juggle all of that, and they work very well with not only the ROTC departments but the commandant cadets and his staff and the professors on campus to try to provide the opportunity for our students to do all of those things, because that's what we really sell them when we recruit them at Norwich. You can be in the Corps Cadets, you can be in a tough major, and you can participate in athletics. And I'll tell you, we've got 3 great professors of military service in the Army, Navy, and Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force. And these guys are so supportive of athletics. It's amazing, because they see the value in it. And the kids that are athletes that they've had have been their best leaders.
And you've spent the last 30 years as the athletic director. And I think since you started, and I hope I got my dates right, you started back in 92 as the athletic director. and there's been 12 national championships. And I know you had an impact on all of them, but I know you're instrumental in both the women and men's hockey. Talk to us how special it was for the first national championship back in 2000. I think it was for any sport, right? Back in 2000 when the men's hockey team, you guys won 2-1. Talk to us how special that was.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable year. The men's coach was Mike McShane, who was a phenomenal coach, probably one of the best hockey coaches in the country. He had coached he played at UNH and coached at New Hampton Prep, and then he went as an assistant to Dartmouth, and then he did wonders at Dartmouth in recruiting. Their teams went to the NCAA tournament, I think, every year that he was there. And then he jumped to St. Lawrence and turned St. Lawrence around from they were in a low spot there for several years before he got there. And then he ended up going to from St. Lawrence and went to Providence College. And then decided to get out, and he went and got a master's degree, and he worked for one of the Ottawa Senators for a short period of time, and then took the Norwich job. But we had, and he put together a great team. We had some great athletes on that team, but we weren't really. I don't know if we were really predicted to win the championship. And we ended up going out to Wisconsin Superior, and they had a great team out there, and we had a great crowd. We must have had 500 people from Norwich community flew out there and to watch that game, and to have that many people in that rink was just phenomenal. And we had it was a real battle, back and forth, physical. They play a real physical game out in the West. And, of course, I think back then, I don't know if we had any Eastern officials working that game, but the Western officials like to let a lot of things go. And our kids, we had some real tough kids too. And we just played our hearts out. And that championship game was just phenomenal. And to be able to win that, even though it wasn't at home, didn't matter. To be able to win that with all those fans there and the support that they got was just unbelievable. And I'll tell you, Rock, that championship, I think, really put Norwich athletics and specifically Norwich hockey on the map. And our alums, I can't tell you, I mean, there were alums that probably never saw a hockey game in their lives that all of a sudden, wanted season tickets and, were really supportive, not only in watching the team play, but even financially in helping support the university and the team. So that was really a real special event. I can't tell you how proud I was of that group and the coaching staff for what they did that weekend out in Superior, because it was a very tough place to play. But boy, our kids came through and played great.
And I think it was the 2017 national championship. I think you guys came back here. There was a lot of Romans at the Utica Odd coming on the cherry on. How special was it to come back to the Odd?
Oh, let me tell you, I was nervous about that. I was glad that we were coming here because I thought the Odd was a perfect place for a national championship. It was the right size building, great location, right off the thruway, easy to get to, plenty of hotels, and to be back at home. I was back at home. I mean, I wasn't coaching. It wasn't my team per se, but I can't tell you how many guys and gals that came from Rome to watch those games, guys I played hockey with and grew up with. That was, as special as the first one was, Rock, this one was, to me, even more special just because of the fact that it was here in Utica, and there were so many of my friends and relatives and people, that were familiar with with me and Norwich and what we had done up there, and that was just a phenomenal opportunity. And again, two great games. There were great teams in that tournament, and Adrian, was probably the best team in the tournament, and our kids just found a way to win that game. And our goalie played great, which you always need. And but that was a real special moment for me. I was so happy for the team, but to be able to do it in front of a lot of Romans just made it that much more special.
And I know as coaches, we always stress, the student athlete, the academic piece. And, one of the things I thought was really neat. I mean, you've impacted a university in a lot of ways. And you mentioned the Kreitzberg, the arena, the facilities upgrades that you've been a part of. But one of the things I thought was really neat, and again, this is the coach piece in me, is you stress the academic piece. And I think just recently for 2019 and 20, you guys had over 150, 160 athletes that were on the all-academic team. So that's got to be something special as well at Norwich.
Yeah, I'll tell you, our coaches have done a great job in terms of pounding that into our students. And, I always compile GPAs at the end of each semester and see how each team is doing. And we've got 20 varsity teams, and I think we had, when I compiled it over the last year, and I think this year as well, I think we had 16 teams that were over 3.0 GPA. And ironically, the two teams that typically have the highest GPAs are men's and women's hockey. They have been phenomenal. Here's a team that has great success, but these kids are unbelievable academic students, and they're not taking easy majors. They're in engineering or cybersecurity or business. We've had, when you go to the NCAA tournament, they give out an award to a member of a team that has the highest GPA in the tournament. So there's 4 teams in the tournament, men or women, and the last 4 times that we were in the NCAA tournament with men's hockey, we won that award, and the women won it 2 years.
That's
when
awesome.
They were in. So it's just phenomenal. But we keep on top of our kids in terms of grades. They know that if they're not doing well, they're not going to be able to participate. And the coaches keep track of them in class. If they're missing class, the coach will call them in and, hey, if you want to play, you better be in class and you better get your work done. And it's important. And they keep pounding that message into them. And it's been working. And, I'm really proud of our athletes. Like I said, some of these kids are taking, I would never be able to take the number of classes that these kids are taking. Believe me, it's just phenomenal. And double majors and kids that are going on to go to medical school. And we've got a great cybersecurity program. I think it's the second best in the country. And these kids, we did security for the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and our kids, did all the computer work for that. So it's just been great to see how serious that these athletes are taking their academics.
So in the 30 years, I'm sure there's been a lot that's changed since you took over as the athletic director and even coaching. But, you've been part of, like I said, 12 national championships, facility upgrades there. What are you most proud of in your tenure there so far?
Well, I think I'm really proud of, what our athletes have been able to do. They've really, they amaze me in all that they've been able to accomplish in all the things that they're required to do. That really is makes me very proud. Our facility upgrades. I mean, our hockey rink is as good as anybody's. Better than some Division I rinks, which has been great. We just redid our football stadium with artificial turf and lights, which has been a great thing for us from a recruiting standpoint. We got a field house that was built back in '87, but we can do pretty much everything in there. We've had a lacrosse game in there in the past and a softball game in there. So seeing all of that and seeing how the university has really advanced itself, it really is a proud thing to see. From the when I first got there, we had one athletic building and that was it. And now, we've got, the field house, the hockey rink, the football stadium, Andrews Hall, where all the athletic offices are, in our gymnasium. And then we have Big Plumley Army, which your dad will remember as a freshman going in there, which is a huge gymnasium that we use for a lot of different activities. But I'm just proud of the way our students have been able to accomplish the things that they've been able to accomplish. It's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing to see what some of those student athletes and students in general have been able to do.
And you just had the Coach Mariano Award, right?
Yeah.
That's awarded now to the male and female most outstanding athlete. How special is that? That's awesome to have an award named after you.
Yeah, that, it was, every year we would have a senior athlete award banquet. And, last year we couldn't do it because of COVID. And this year we couldn't have the banquet. We did something a little bit different. And then we give out these awards and there are academic awards that we give out and those two senior athlete awards. And so we're in the gym and I got up and said a few words about the athletes and congratulated them and thanked them for hanging in there with COVID and doing all the right things that they did in order to be able to at least practice, and some teams participated. And I'm reaching back to do one of the awards, and our SID said, "Well, it's not here yet, because he didn't want me to see my name on the award. So finally, one of the SID got up and said, now we're naming these two awards in my name, and I was just flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. There were tears in my eyes, Rock. Just I couldn't believe that they had done that, and that's really special to be able to honor you in that way, and that's a great award. To have a male and a female senior athlete of the year, and see what they've accomplished, and to have my name on that award is really special. Really special.
So I know you're going to be retiring in 2022. Is it spring in 22 you're going to retire?
Yeah, the end of May. That's the timeline right now. Tough decision. I didn't want to go out after the last 2 years, the way the last 2 years went. I felt bad for the student athletes, especially the fall kids. Football couldn't play, soccer couldn't play in the fall. None of the teams played in the fall. We did get a couple of soccer games in the spring, and the spring teams and the winter teams did play 7 or 8 games, but nothing like it would normally have been. And of course, there weren't any NCAA championships that we could go to. And then the spring, we played a larger schedule, but not anywhere near what we would normally do. But I didn't want to go out on that note. I wanted to be able to see our kids, have a full year and a regular season and a positive experience. So, I said, well, we'll hang out one more year, but people always say, when you're ready, And I think I am. I'm nervous about it, to be very honest with you, because I'm a guy that if I have a day off, Rock, I'll go find something to do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit and watch TV or read a book. I'll go tinker in the barn or, fix something or, do whatever. But I know I'm going to go stir crazy. Probably not so much in the summer because I can go and play golf and putter around the house. But the winter, I think I'm going to have to find a part-time job doing something because that'll drive me crazy sitting around in the wintertime. But yeah, I'm a little nervous about it because everybody tells me it's going to be great, but and I'm sure it will, and it'll give me more time to spend with grandchildren and my son and daughter-in-law. My son's in the development office at Colgate, and my daughter-in-law is the head field hockey coach at Hamilton. So I'm actually in their house right now talking with you, but it'll give us more time to be able to go watch her teams play and as the grandkids get older and in their activities, we'll be able to watch them. So that's what I'm looking forward to. 44 years in one place, it usually doesn't happen a lot. Guys usually travel from one place to the next. And I've just been real lucky to be able to do it in one place and really appreciative of it.
So when you shut the book on or you shut the chapter on this book of your career at Norwich, what do you think when you walk out of your office for the last time? What thoughts will go through your head?
Oh my God. I'll think back to the mentors that I had at Norwich. I talked a little bit earlier about Joe Sable and Wally Baines, who were great mentors for me. Barry Minner, who was a St. Lawrence guy and assistant football coach here and the head football coach at Norwich, was great. We had a guy, Ed Hockenberry, that played basketball at Boston College and played for Bob Cousy, who was a basketball coach at Norwich. All those guys, I mean, those are the memories that I'm going to have, about, when I first came and the great times that we had at Norwich. And then, I've been really fortunate to have some great coaches work for me. And, they deserve all the credit. I don't deserve the credit. They deserve the credit because they've been able to go out and recruit great athletes and coach their teams and do some great things. And just a lot of great memories of the people that have come and gone. Unfortunately, all my mentors have passed. I think I'm the old guy left now, Rob. So that's one of the reasons I want to get out before anything happens, right? But it's been such a great time, and the Northfield community has really, been a great environment to have my son grow up in, and we've made so many friends in Northfield. It's just been, it's a small town. It's 4,000 people. It's not huge, as you know, but we have so many friends there, and to be able to interact with them on a daily basis has been great. But we're going to stick around there for a few years, I think, and eventually we may end up back in Rome. At least that's the plan right now, and so we'll see what happens. But just a lot of great memories that we have that will stay with us for the rest of our lives.
So, Tony, I got time for two more quick questions, and one of them, I know we talked earlier about the Rome Sports Hall of Fame, and you were in and got inducted in 2001, and I got to say, what a class you went in with. Cliff Guattari, Dick Meese, Don Bruce, Tom Hoke, Bill Fleet. Talk to us how special not only just going in with that class is, but just being in the Rome Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, there's so many guys that I idolized. I will tell you, Fee DeCosti, Jerry Burleson, Billy Vincey. I mean, those were guys that I looked up to. I remember watching, those guys play at RFA, and to be in the Hall of Fame with those guys initially was great. And then the class that I went in, look at all the great coaches and all that they've done. And then Cliff Kateri, I remember going to the state fair and watching him drive stock cars, and the guy always used to win. He was phenomenal. But I was so happy to go in with Dick and Fleeter and Hokie and Don. It was just, I was so happy to be with that group, because they were not only good friends, but they were great coaches, and really supported me when I was in school. And Bill Fleet and I have been great friends, and Dick and I have been great friends for years. And that was really a special moment for me, just to be included with that group and everybody else that's in the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. There's so many great athletes that Rome has had. It's just phenomenal.
So the $1 million question I got to ask you, everybody knows it but me. How did you get the nickname Meatball?
Well, I had an older brother, Tom, who got the name first. And we were Italian. A lot of his friends weren't Italian that he hung out with, but so they kind of gave him that name, and then it trickled back down to me, and it stuck. And that's with nicknames, sometimes you don't even know the guy's real name; you just know him by his nickname, right? And we have I got three great friends that I play golf with: Gary Pulio, Bobby Vero, and Patrick Perillo, and we all have nicknames. Patrick Perillo is Norton, Bobby Vero is Nipper, and Gary is GP, and I'm Meatball. And when we get together, that's what we call each other, but it was a trickle down effect from my brother to me, and that everybody in Rome, I think all the Italian guys in Rome all have nicknames. So we kind of make fun of it, but it's special. It's special to be able to have a nickname and to have that kind of relationship with your friends that you've known for years and years.
Well, Tony, listen, I appreciate you coming on with me here tonight. It's been an honor to have you on and talk with you. You were kind enough to respond to me to come on. And your career's not over yet, but I thank you, congratulate you. You've impacted so many people, and it's been an honor to have you on.
Well, Rock, thanks. It's been an honor for me to be here and to talk with you. You do a great job with these podcasts, and you got to keep it going. People in Rome need to hear about these athletes that we have, past and present, and you continue to do a great job with it. And I'm proud to be from Rome. Rome is always going to be home to me, and hopefully one of these days I'll be back as a full-time resident. So, but I really appreciate you asking me to be on. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you here in Rome. And it's been great to follow your career. I know a lot of us do, so it's been awesome. But I appreciate it.
Well, great. Thanks, Rock. I appreciate it as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So that was Tony Mariano, another Roman here, and he's had a fantastic career. It's not over yet at Norwood, and if you think about it, he spent 44 years at one place. And I always say, as a coach, if even not a coach, but just being in the sports business, if you can spend 44 years at one place, you've done something right. He's made it home. He spent the last 30 years as the athletic director, 12 national championships, 20 varsity programs, national champion. He's had just a great career. So I really appreciate Tony for taking the time tonight to come on with me. And I'll post the schedule. I got a guest more than likely for next week, but I'm not doing them every week. I've been busy. But I'm going to continue the rock pile as I always do. And please subscribe to the channel, share it. It's been great from when I started this thing about a little over a year ago to see where it's at now. I really appreciate everybody's support. Again, Saturday morning on the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch, if you are a Coney Island, Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, you'll know who he is, the voice of Coney Island. George Shea is going to join me at 10:30, and we'll be live from 9 to 11 Saturday morning right on WKAL 1450. So on behalf of myself tonight here on the Rock Pile, as I say every Wednesday night on the Rock Pile, the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality. Have a good evening, everybody.